A few years back, we tried to figure it out just exactly how many years. I think we landed at 3 years ago,
Yeah, I think
2013 maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, we saw a Pavilion at GameX, Comic-Con, I don't know what it was called back then,
I think it was only GameX back then.
only GameX back then. We saw a game called Pavilion, puzzle adventure from you and your colleague, and you know, take us to today. What's been going on ever since you first sort of revealed the game?
Yeah, it's been a lot of like revisions and making the gameplay feel better. You know, we've been around the world just showing the game to a lot of people, and just watching people play the game actually gives us a lot of feedback that that led us to revise things, make it better, make it feel more understandable and smooth. And then, you learn a lot of things during the years, and you just want to make the best kind of experience you can, and that's, I think also one thing we didn't expect when we started this was that we were going to find so many like interesting things that we have found. It started out, we scheduled the project for 8 months, I think, and now it's 4 years in, and it's like still pretty fun to work on. It's goes up and down, production, but it's it's still very interesting game, and I'm proud of where we are right now. And I think we have everything now feels very solid, and it is where I want it to be right now. So that feels good. Yeah.
So the premise of it all, it's a sort of a non-direct control puzzle game, if you will. You're sort of trying to sort of maneuver things so that the character progresses through the different levels, through the different puzzles. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of how where that idea come from, and sort of how much is there you can do with that? I mean, from my perspective, it's like, oh, that's simple. You can just do these little things, but maybe it's a little bit more complex things you can actually make.
Yeah, I think that was what we found, actually. It was just more things. It felt like a really simple kind of, very simple kind of idea that, you have a character, he's running around in there, you can interact with things and he reacts to it. And, it was just, the game is kind of built up of three things. It's the character and his behavior, and then you have the environment, how that looks, and then you have the interactive objects which you can control as a player, and how these three things kind of blend together, and like new situations like comes out of that. It was really interesting to kind of dig into that and see how many like puzzling situations you could get out of that. And there is more there than you'd actually think. And
I guess it's got to be really gratifying to be able to sort of nerd out in sort of one very specific sort of puzzle situation and really get everything out of that you can possibly get.
Yeah, it's always very like gratifying when you find like, oh, I just come up with this small thing, and then it leads to something else and something else and something else, and then you start like, okay, we have all of these things over here that, okay, let's just mix these and see what happens. And it's a really nice feeling to see things grow. It's kind of, we're kind of exploring the whole idea as we go. It's like it's kind of a exploration game too, so it kind of felt really nice to have kind of an exploration based production too. So that's been really interesting.
Yeah, speaking of that, I think one thing that struck me, having sort of seen it a long time ago and seeing it now, is just how much more rich the world is, how much more sort of detail there is there, and so it feels like you've really been able to go over each environment sort of layer by layer and sort of flesh it out, because there's no sort of pre-told story here. There's no sort of things that you read. It's all in what you see on the screen and what the player experiences.
Yeah, because we don't use any text in the game, so everything is conveyed through graphics and small objects that you can find. And And it's also a game that is kind of slow. It's a lot of the puzzle elements actually happening in your head. You know, you're thinking about things. You know, how does this connect to this, and how does the character behave here? So having a rich world with a lot of like atmosphere and immersion felt like, yeah, it felt really good to have that kind of immersion, to draw the player into the world and make everything fit into the same. Yeah, it just. Yeah, immersion is that was what we were going for all the time, and you know, I think the version you played 3 years ago, if you would compare it to what it is now, you know, that would look like crap, in my opinion. But
you can go back and check the old interview if you want to see what that looked like.
Yeah. But we have put a lot of like small environment animations in, and weather things and color correction layers that really helps the overall experience. Yeah.
I guess it also sort of, because you are this sort of abstract interaction with the world through sort of non-direct control, it sort of helps that the world feels more alive. Then it sort of draws you in a little bit more.
Yeah, because it's something that you're thrown into the world without any explanations, without any text. You just know what button you steer with and what you're, you know, interacting with. So everything is told through the environment, you know, and the environment kind of has a language too, that you can, the more you observe, the more things you'll see is consistent, and you can follow certain things. And there's also different layers of story in there, so the environment also has a history. And even if not every player picks up on that or are interested, you know, it's fine. You know, if you just want to play the game for the puzzles, that's fine. If you like just being in there, just exploring the game is not really built around a difficulty. So we really wanted to create a flow where someone could play it for the puzzles and still get like some small challenge out of it. But it's still, you could also play it just as an adventure or something like that, where you just experience the game. And yeah,
it's funny that thing you say with the environment, because you know, some players will sort of pick up and try and get the clues and together, but it feels like everyone benefits from it, from just having a world that has that sort of layer to it. Even if you don't sort of realize it yourself, or if you're digging into it, it still benefits the player.
Yeah, I think it definitely gives the game more depth too, or you kind of get, the world is really like abstract and surreal in many ways, but it's still, if you keep the consistency and make things have a purpose in the world, I think it, you know, it will create more immersion, and the player will, you know, see it more as a real world. You know, just get into the game more in a way. Yeah.
So, speaking of the nitty-gritty, the boring stuff, the sort of the platforms, etc. The plan is now you're getting close there now. 4 years, but it's not going to be 5 or 6. It's getting close. Steam will be the first platform, as far as I understood.
Yeah, I think so. Just because Sony and PlayStation has some more like gates that you need to get through to actually get your game out, so that will take a little bit longer. But otherwise, I think Steam and PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, and you know, we're also working on an eye tracking version with Toby and some other platforms too. So we want to reach as many people as possible, you know. And Pavilion, it's a really like simple interactive system. So it's basically almost like a point and click game in how it plays. So it's really easy to like transfer it to different platforms. Yeah.
And maybe potentially tablets down the line then.
Yeah. Actually, it started off as an iPad game, and you know, as I said, you can play the whole game just with your eyes. So it's really, it will pretty much work anywhere. Just need to adapt some of the graphical. We have some issues with size and minor things that it's. Yeah, we can fix that.
Looking forward to it pretty soon.
Thanks.